Mixed bag sequence, so mix of hips and spine, and it's 3 postures per set. So usually we do 2, so it's kind of unusual in that regard. Shorter time, so 3 minutes, and then I try to design a sequence where we're taking advantage of relationships between the upper and the lower body. This is something that no one taught me. It's just something that I noticed when I started teaching over time, that there were certain stretches that you might do in the lower body that were affecting your upper body in a beneficial way, and vice versa. So I thought I have several sequences like this where we're kind of taking advantage of that relationship. We're kind of priming the lower body when we're working the upper body, or vice versa. So we're working the lower body and then we're priming the upper body for work. Okay. So any questions before we get into it? All right. Then let's start with a half butterfly. The right leg is straight, left foot to the inside of the thigh. As always, feel free to use support if necessary. Knee, forearms, forehead. You can also sit on something. Make sure you feel the stretch here, and make sure you feel safe and comfortable enough to hold the posture for the 3-minute mark, okay? Okay, so let's switch sides. So left leg is straight, right foot to the inside of the thigh, and then just letting the upper body come forward. Okay, so again, one more posture before we take a short break. Both legs straight, and now we are targeting the spine, so don't be too surprised if you no longer feel much stretch in the back of your thighs. You might feel it back here, and you also may not feel much of anything. So I just want to be clear about that. We do not want to pull ourselves down until we feel something in our back. That is not the right approach here. So just let time and gravity do what they do. You don't need a help in this instance because any help you give the stretch will actually hurt over the long term. So just let those arms relax. And again, use support if you need it. But if you don't need it, just allow the stress to go into your back, okay? Just a gentle stretch. Okay, so we'll do a rebound, which is just a short break. So we're coming to a neutral position. On your back is usually a good choice. And then let's bring those legs in, shake it out. And then we'll hinge up. Okay. Next, we have perhaps a more challenging posture, at least for some body types, the half dragonfly. So legs are straight and wide, pretty much as wide as they'll go. And then we're folding over the left. I'm not going to mirror here, so I'm not sure how it looks, but make sure this is your left leg, your left foot. Now, even though I'm holding the foot, we're not trying to pull or yank. So I'm just sort of holding myself in position. You can do that with a strap, yoga strap. If you don't have one of those, you can use a belt or a tie, something like that you'd have at home. scarf, towel, right? And then we want to feel it here. So if you're not feeling it there, then you can roll or stack the right shoulder over the left shoulder. And at a certain point, you hopefully feel the stretch. Okay, switching sides, same thing. Okay, so one more, again, before we take a break. So this little unusual, but we do 3 per set. So let's do the frog. I had a student in class on Wednesday, and she said that frog didn't work for her. It just hurt her knees. And so I said, okay, show me your frog. And she was a little bit like this. And I said, well, take your knees as wide as they'll go. And then she felt it. So I say it almost every time I teach the posture, but for whatever reason, people sometimes just don't hear. So knees as wide as they will go. You just don't stop. You just keep going until your knees won't go any further apart, and then you will likely feel the adductor stretch in the groin. Okay, your feet can be together, they can be apart, they can flex, they can point. You can stay on your hands, you can come down to your elbows, you can rest your forehead or torso on a block or bolster as necessary. So again, the main thing we're looking for is this stretch in here. If you have sensitive knees, please do pad them as necessary. You can put a towel or a blanket underneath the knees as you need to. But for most people, this is not too bad on their knees. Okay, so this is liver channel. Again, muscle group is the adductors, and we're just trying to give them a good stretch here. Interestingly, the posture we just did is gallbladder, and liver gallbladder are yin-yang with one another. You can sort of think of it as like almost like a coupling, like they're a couple, a male and female couple. So the liver is the yin, feminine energy, which is considered primary, and then the gallbladder, the more masculine yang energy, is sort of almost like a helper energy. And what you do to one affects the other and vice versa. So that's why, to a degree, talking about them in isolation isn't completely accurate. So that's why we often will just pair them together: stomach, spleen, liver, gallbladder, that kind of you'll hear me talk in that way, because where we're affecting one, we're likely affecting the other. So these different channels affect us according to the Taoist tradition in different ways. So mentally, emotionally, physically, energetically, spiritually. It's pretty much in the yoga tradition, there's something called the koshas, which are sheaths or layers. So the yogic tradition said we have basically 5 layers. We have a physical layer, then we have an energetic layer, we have a mental/emotional layer, we have a layer of wisdom, almost like spiritual wisdom. Most people don't have access to that, but it is available to us if we purify ourselves in the right way. And then we have a layer of bliss, which also most people don't experience on a regular basis. Okay, let's go ahead and come on out of that one, and we can come into a child pose to rest. Okay, inhaling, we come up to tabletop. Let's do a little counter stretch with the bear pose. Just give ourselves a good stretch out here. And then the down dog, also just to get our feet and legs moving a bit. Okay, next set is the sleeping swan, and we're using this to target the glutes here. glutes slash IT band. So if you feel it along here, that's fine as well. Up in here, anywhere in this region is totally fine. We don't really want it in the knee or the ankle. So the knee can be at various angles. This foot could be closer to the front of the mat or further back. It can flex, it can point. The hips can rock to the left or to the right as necessary. And again, you can be up on your hands or come down to your elbows as you need to. And as long as you feel safe, you're comfortable enough to hold it for 3 minutes, and you feel the stretch here, then you're good to go. Okay, so let's switch sides. All right. So once again, one more before we break. So just coming onto your belly, prop yourself up on the elbows. That is the Sphinx. And if you're not really feeling anything in your back, then you can straighten your arms for the seal pose. The variations are the same for the two postures. So shoulders depressed or relaxed, head held up or drop forward or drop back, and legs together or apart are pretty much the different options that you have. Worth exploring. So if you've never experimented with maybe taking your legs wider or bringing them together and seeing how that affects the feel of the posture, I recommend you do that. If not today, then at some point. And from time to time, it's a good idea to revisit, to experiment and see if anything has changed, because our bodies are changing all the time. So sometimes something that was working, it stops working, and we need to switch it up. Okay, so gradually coming back down. And then to counter stretch, we can bring our arms out, bend our knees, and just gently drop those feet side to side. Okay, so the cattail is next. This one, I think all of you are proficient in it at this point, but when I teach it in person, I almost always see people doing it incorrectly. So make sure you know your left and your right, and then you want to pull the left leg up pretty much as far as you can. And then you take the right leg and move it back, again, pretty much as far as you can. And then bending that knee, you reach back and grab the foot. And you want to start with your head propped up on your hand and your elbow on the ground, on the right arm, right? So you can stay right there. You can lean back. You can straighten the front leg, you can pull it closer to your face for more intensity. Likewise, for less intensity, bend the left leg, bring it down away from your face. You can move this right foot around at various angles. And you don't have to keep your head in your hand. You can reposition your head, right? So you can put it on your upper arm, various other places, okay? So this is the cattail. We're getting a quad stretch. We're getting a twist. This is the only twist in today's class, so my recommendation is go ahead and explore that by leaning that shoulder back. And what you want is your hips, you don't want them to move, because if you lean back and then bring your left hip to the ground, you're no longer twisting. So when we lean back, we're trying to twist, explore the twist with that, okay? Okay, so let's unwind from that. I'm going to turn just so I can face the camera, but you shouldn't need to do that. Just roll onto your belly and then bring the right leg up this time. Prop your head up, bring the left leg back, and then bend the knee. And you should feel the stretch there. So again, we're priming those quads, hip flexors, the front of the thigh and the front of the hip. And that will relate with the next posture that we do, which is the saddle pose, which is can be considered another quad stretch. And also, if we come far enough back, it becomes a back bend as well. So this is like a quad stretch with a twist. Literally, we're twisting the spine here. Hopefully you can see my pelvis is facing the ground. My shoulders are stacked or even facing up. I don't have that much twisting in my torso. Some people can actually lay all the way back on their back, but I just don't have that kind of mobility in my torso. So this is about as far as I get. But you might be able to lay all the way back onto your back without moving your hips, which would create a pretty deep twist in your spine. Okay, so again, this is a quad stretch with a twist, and then in a moment we'll do a quad stretch potentially with the back bend. And the reason I say that is if you don't have the openness in your quads and hip flexors, then you can actually end up hurting your knees, hurting your back, and obviously that's something we want to avoid. So we always have to sort of respect the weak link, the tight link, if you will, in yoga. A lot of times it's about flexibility. So while a posture like saddle can work our back in a very therapeutic way, part of the prerequisite is the quads and hip flexors need to be opened up first. Otherwise, it can be dangerous and injurious. All right, so with an exhalation, you can roll back onto your belly. Again, one more before we rest. So pressing back to a kneeling position. Now I'm very quickly going to list off the options here, okay? So try and catch what you need. You can sit on your heels, between your heels. You can sit on a block. Your toes can point back or out to the sides. Your knees can be together or your knees can be very wide apart. Now, what you're trying to do with those decisions for the most part is make your feet, ankles, and knees feel safe, feel relatively comfortable. It's not an ankle pose, it's not a foot pose, it's not a knee pose. So it's not really where we want the majority of the sensation, okay? So I'll choose this variation today. This is one I do often. Now, a lot of people can't do this variation, and that doesn't matter. This is not an advanced variation or special, or it just happens to suit my body very well. And so from here, if my knees and ankles and feet are comfortable, and they are, and I don't feel a stretch here anymore, right? We were stretching here with the cattail, but now I don't feel any stretch. So I'm going to begin lowering back to hands, elbows, to a bolster, the crown of the head, or all the way back onto the back. Now, this is one of my favorite yoga postures because it really gets into my SI joint, sacroiliac joint, and that's an area that I feel in my body is perhaps less than ideal. It's maybe not as healthy as it could be, probably from all the sitting that I did when I was younger. Growing up, I just gravitated towards things that are indoors, things that are seated things. So recording and playing music, building model airplanes, computers and computer games, and creating websites, and all these types of things. So I've spent, countless hours, I can't even imagine, just seated, right? And I wasn't aware or conscious that that was not the best thing for my body. I think now there's a lot more awareness about this. People have standing desks. People have like timers on their devices, right? They'll have like a smart watch and it will beep like every 45 minutes. And, they've done studies and they've shown just getting up, even just standing up, every 45 minutes, that can make a difference in your health. So again, when I was growing up, there was zero awareness of any of that. It was sort of like, everyone kind of knew exercise was healthy, but it was a very vague thing. Exercising is healthy. Okay, what does that mean? How much exercise? What kind of exercise? How often? How vigorous, right? There was no clarity about any of that. So it was only later, in life that I learned about the value of movement and how harsh our lifestyle actually is on our hips and our back. So this posture, for whatever reason, just in my body, it really, really feels like it's helping my body to, I don't know, heal or balance some of that stuff from the past. Of course, it's almost impossible to avoid sitting some, right? So I still have to sit for work. I might invest in a standing desk at some point, but currently when I'm doing my computer work, I'm still seated. All right, let's go ahead and take our time coming out of that. So that posture, very good for what's called the SI joint, sacroiliac joint. And today's sequence had something for the lumbar and something for the SI joint. And those are in terms of joints, those are probably the two most important ones for back health. And then in the Monday class, we do things to strengthen the core, strengthen the back, and which is also really important for back health. So it's not just stretching, it's not just joints, it's also conditioning the muscles as well. Okay, let's bring those legs in. We'll shake it out, a little bit of movement. So a good sign is at the beginning of today's class, my back felt pretty sensitive for whatever reason. I haven't been sleeping great lately, and that could be part of the reason. But now I can report it feels much better. And what I mean is I can move a lot more before I feel anything. So in a healthy body, you really don't feel much until you are doing something that might actually be injurious, dangerous, right? So just moving, you don't necessarily feel much. That's kind of what we want. And then as very often as we get older, we start to feel joints and pain in certain situations, in certain movements that are considered just normal, healthy movements. And that's a warning sign. So that's how I try and look at it. If I'm feeling pain or discomfort with a normal movement, I try and fix that. I try and heal that. And so far I've been pretty lucky, been pretty good with that. This hip was bothering me last year. I've been able to heal that. And right now I'm working on my back. All right, everyone. So if you want to set a timer for 5 minutes and relax on your back, that can be a wonderful way to finish today's practice. But in this class, we do rest between postures. So I don't see it as essential as it is for the flow class on Monday.